a very unexpected video. We just dropped our last video. Please check that out if you've not. But Nick, we've had a huge last two
Huge.
days. Dame Lillard has been traded to the Milwaukee Bucks. How are you feeling
It's
about it?
nuts. I feel really good. I'm happy for Damian Lillard. Obviously, now I feel like he's going to be very happy with Milwaukee. I know he expressed a lot and his agent expressed a lot how, no, they wanted him to go to Miami. But me personally, I think the Bucks was the best possible destination for Damian Lillard because now he's going to a team. He's not even the best player on this team.
Yeah, yeah.
Giannis is the best player on this team, and it's gonna relieve so much pressure off of him. Dame, I feel like he likes that small market kind of
Mm,
vibe, like that low key vibe, like Portland was, and I think he's just gonna fit right in with Milwaukee. And this team is on paper, man. I think they're the team to beat in the East now.
yeah, 100%.
I think what's gonna be very, very interesting. I don't know if people that watch like First Take, it's a Brian Windhorst. He made a very interesting comment on the trades could be more like interesting where Drew Holiday is going to end up going because he's going to get dealt. He's not going to stay in Portland, and Portland's asking price now is 2 first-round picks. That's what they
Chicago.
announced today. That's what they want. So I think a lot of Eastern Conference teams are going to be heavily involved because now they're going to
Mhm.
have to figure out what guards that could guard Damian Lillard. I think Boston's going to be interested now. They don't have Marcus Smart, so they need a guy that can guard Dame. Philly's going to be interested. New York Knicks have 8 first-round picks. Let's
Yeah,
go,
man.
Knicks.
Yeah,
Let's
they
go,
they
Knicks.
literally
And
they should be able to.
yeah, and then the Bulls, I mean, we'll see what happens. I think Drew Holiday's going to end up in the Eastern Conference somewhere. It's just a matter of which team and who's willing to give up a lot. And
Yeah,
Miami, of course, is going to be involved. But I think with the Dame and Giannis pick and roll, everyone's been talking about how that pick and roll is going to be unstoppable. But I think a lot of people are forgetting that pick and roll with Brook Lopez too is going to be insane because now you have one guy that could get to the lane at will, and Giannis
hmm
could dominate down there when he sends screens and stuff. You can't overhedge anymore because Giannis could just slip these so fast and so quick, so athletic. Where
hmm
now if you over collapse, you still have a Chris Middleton. Brooke Lopez is giving out a They have shooters on this team as well. Versus
That's
when
true.
Brooke
That's
Lopez
true.
sets a screen, that pick and pop game, you can't really double Dame that much because now Brooke Lopez could be wide open for three, and he shoots 40% from three. I think
hmm
like in Portland, besides LaMarcus Aldridge, when Dame was very young into his career, he hasn't had that pick and roll crime partner. Now he's got two of them to work with.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I think with Dame, man, like I think the crazier part about the whole trade was that I don't think Milwaukee was expected. Like I know that you were the one that called it back in our January episode or February March, I'm sorry. Either way,
Yeah.
the Two Pointers podcast episode, and you were the one that mentioned about Milwaukee being a really good destination for Dame to go to. And
Mm-hmm.
I just think that like it's another point to show a team that is dedicated to making their player happy. And this is the second time Milwaukee's done this. We remember 2 years, 3 years ago when they traded
Yep.
for Drew.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a huge move. Obviously, they had to give up a lot to get Drew. I actually even probably more than what they had to give up to get Dame, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think the other thing too is that, like you said, Nick, this is the first time in Dame's career where he's been like a superstar level player that he's going to have somebody that's better than him on his team. And I think one of the biggest things Milwaukee has just solved is their late game scoring in playoff games. Because I think one of the
Absolutely.
biggest struggles they've had is that they've relied on Chris Middleton to be that guy. And Drew
Mm-hmm.
Holiday also hit one of the biggest threes of his career in that Nets and Bucks series when they won the finals back in 21. So
Mm-hmm.
now you got a guy that you have to guard at all times because he's an assassin from three and he can get hot when he needs to. So I only am worried about their defense and their age because I know that we're going to call them the favorites, but
Mm-hmm.
personally, I'm only worried how healthy can they stay. I know Dame's had his injuries, the major one with the abdomen, which kept him out for most of the season 2 years ago,
Yep.
and Giannis has obviously been durable, but he's had some points of injury. Middleton's had the on and off with his MCL.
Mm-hmm.
Brooke Lopez missed time because of his back. So you have an older group like Lakers team from a couple of years ago, but I think they're way more talented than that team. But it's a similar situation where you're an older veteran team that has a lot of good talent. but can you stay
Mhm.
healthy enough through the season? I think they'll still be able to make like a top 3 seed in the East. I don't think they'll be the 1
Yeah.
seed because I think it's gonna
Mhm.
take time for Dame and Giannis to gel. I still think the Celtics will probably be the 1 seed.
Mhm.
But I think that Milwaukee will be a 2 or 3 seed for sure, and they're gonna be one of the most dangerous teams, especially if they can get another piece for like on the deadline for like
Yep.
defense.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I think obviously Milwaukee did not want to give up Drew Holiday, but I feel like
No.
that's the only way this trade was going to go through
Yeah.
because I feel like Portland made this move with Milwaukee because I think at the end of the day, Milwaukee just didn't want Tyler Hero. They wanted to get a guy where that specific player could have value
Mhm.
that they could trade immediately and get even more draft picks. And I think Drew Holiday was the
Exactly.
perfect, player for that because now all these teams are gonna dive right in to get Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Portland's they're a really young, talented team. I think
Mhm.
a lot of people are forgetting too, like the Bucks were a top 5 team defensively last season,
Mhm.
right? But the issue is they were actually only 15th in the NBA offensively wise. I think that's why they made this move. Just
Oh
like
yeah.
you said, Alex, they relied on Chris Middleton too much, in closeout situations where last year he wasn't really healthy. And Drew
Mhm.
Holiday's a great player, but I don't think you can rely on him
You
to
can't rely
close
on that
out games.
shooting.
I think that's why you can make this move to get Damian Lillard.
Mhm.
I'm just really excited how this pairing is really going to work. I think it's great that this move happened before training camp, so they could at least get the ball moving.
Mhm.
Start to figure things out. And a lot of people forget too, the assistant coach for the Milwaukee Bucks was Dame's head coach in Portland for
That's
a good
true.
amount of his career. I think
That's true.
a lot of people forget about that. I think that's
Yeah.
why this is really going to work really well for Damian Lillard. Just like you said, I kind of agree that I think Boston will still be the 1 seed, but I think Milwaukee, I think they're going to make another move or two just to get more
They have
defense on
to.
this team by the trade deadline or something like that. So,
Yeah.
um,
It,
yeah, I think Milwaukee will be the team to beat, but I don't think they'll be the number 1 seed.
I just feel like sometimes, especially the last couple of years, I think outside
Hmm.
of like the Nuggets,
Hmm.
you don't necessarily have to be the 1 seed to win anymore. I
Hmm.
feel like that doesn't necessarily mean, I mean, Milwaukee was the 3 seed when they won in 21, so it's not crazy if they were the 2 or 3 seed and won the championship.
Yeah.
I think another thing too that I know we haven't like mentioned too much is just like the trade package that they got back. I personally think that Portland had better offers out there. I
Hmm.
get you're trying to move off of him, and I think when you corner a GM into saying, "Hey, I'm only going to play for Miami," you're having his agent basically sabotage every other team trying to get Dame Lillard, and you're basically
Hmm.
left with Miami. And I think Miami could have offered a better package, sure, but I think the problem was is that Cronin was so like insistent on just getting him off the team and seeing like, can I flip anything else with this with that Drew Holiday? Because obviously they weren't going to
Hmm.
keep Drew since you have Anthony Simon, since you have Scoot Henderson, you have that
Yep.
backcourt, you don't need him.
Hmm.
I think they're actually going to get more back for Drew than they
Yep.
did for Dame. I feel like it's going to be like the Chris Paul situation where Washington got more out of Chris Paul than they did for Kristaps and Bradley Beal. So I feel like that's where this is going to go. I actually think the Suns benefited the second most out of this trade. So I would put the Bucks
Hmm.
obviously benefit the most, then the Suns because you got depth. You got Grayson Allen, Nazir Little, and Keon Johnson. I don't like Nurkic that much. I don't know where people. And before I continue, Nick, I don't know where people think Yusuf Nurkic is a defensive-minded center because I've
He's
never
not.
seen this man play defense, and I don't know who in the world is saying he's a defensive-minded center. He's not. He was literally drafted for his offensive ability, not his
Hmm.
defense. This man got
Hmm.
jammed on in 2018. Let's not forget that. And he's also been injury prone. So I feel like for the Suns, I get that you want to get rid of Aiden. I don't agree with the Nurkic taking back, but hey, you know
Hmm.
what? It is what
It
it
was just
is.
for cap space situation.
Yeah. And maybe Aiden turns his career around in Portland. We don't know. Maybe he gets moved. It just really depends. But I think they have a
Hmm.
lot of tradable assets from this and they can still build forward. I just think that for what they were expecting for Dame, I don't feel like they got that. That's just my opinion. I don't know how you feel
No,
about that.
no, no. I completely agree with that. It's just crazy, man. And I think a lot of people are forgetting too. Giannis didn't sign his extension
True.
before all this happened
Yeah.
because he just I think he believed that the front office wasn't doing good enough. Now
Oh
this
yeah.
team has been a 1 seed multiple times. They've been a 3 seed, I believe, multiple times. They won a championship, but at the same time, Giannis knows like they lost in the first round, and I
Mhm.
think he needed it. Like it's like Shaq was so dominant, needed Kobe,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that, where like Giannis is so dominant, right?
Mhm.
But he can't. Since he doesn't really have a perimeter game, he can't really close out a game.
Yeah.
You need a
I
guy
I agree.
that can hit some big shots. I think Damian Lillard is the perfect pairing with Giannis, just the way that those two play. And now you can't really double off Giannis so much now because if you try to double on Giannis, now you have three snipers: Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton's healthy, and obviously Damian Lillard could pull from the parking lot.
Mhm.
So this starting five, let's see how their depth is though. I don't have a lot of depth on this team, but I think on paper, I think you could call Damian Lillard and Giannis the best duo in the NBA.
I think right now they definitely are going to be one of the most dangerous duos. I think their front line is fine. Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, Giannis
Yeah.
Antetokounmpo. Jay
Hmm.
Crowder will probably get more minutes this year. I think he'll have a bounce back year. He's a little bit older, but I think he's still a serviceable player. You obviously
Yeah.
also have Malik Beasley, which I know was a very like quiet move. Maybe
Yeah.
Malik Beasley can be like a Wesley Matthews for you this year,
Yeah.
being able to hit you 3 or 4 threes a game, play some defense for
Hmm.
you. Um, and then I know like they really don't have any point guard depth. That's something that because they lost
Yeah.
Javon Carter to the Bulls this offseason,
Hmm.
and you
Yep.
traded away your starting point guard. So who are you playing behind Dave? That's going to be my question too, because I do not think they signed another point guard this offseason, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm. And I think how this trade happened too. I think they had to get the approval of Dame Lillard that he wanted to go to Milwaukee because he's still under contract for like 3 more years.
And that's the other thing
Two on
too
top
is
of that.
and I think with Giannis, I think he'll sign the extension now. And basically, you're giving Giannis a running mate for the rest of his prime, or at least for a majority of his prime,
Hmm.
where you feel like, hey, we can make the finals almost every year if we play our cards right, if we have the right supporting pieces around us. It's
Hmm.
possible. Again,
Yep.
older team, veterans. But my question though, Nick, is who is going to land Drew Holiday now? Because I know that Portland is not going to keep him. I know we've already mentioned that in this pod, but
Hmm.
do you think do you think a team like the Bulls should go after him? Because I mean we're both Bulls fans and you know that we would
Absolutely.
love to see it, but what do we
Yeah.
give up for it?
That's a good question. They don't have that many draft picks to give up because they traded two to get Vooch, and then they traded one with the sign and trade with DeMar DeRozan. So I don't know what their draft capital really is. And plus, who would they be willing to give up really? Because I think the only way you'd be able to pull Drew Holiday is Patrick Williams has to be in the trade, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
don't think they're going to want Alex Caruso. I don't think a Kobe White would be enough. You get what I mean? I think Patrick Williams
I get
is
what you're
like our
saying.
best asset. I think Drew Holiday's definitely going to go into the East. He's going to be
Mhm.
in the Eastern Conference, I believe.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think Miami's going to really want him now.
Oh,
Bad.
Miami should call. Miami should call. They have the
Yeah.
best assets to give.
Or I had a hypothetical trade.
Okay. Let's hear it.
I think there might be a 3-team trade that gets Drew Holiday to Philly,
Ooh,
and you get
okay.
James Harden out of
Oh
there, get him
yeah,
with the
yeah.
Clippers,
Clippers.
and then Clippers will give up whoever just to get James Harden. Whatever
Yeah.
young assets, maybe Terrence Mann could be about, well, whoever. But I think something like that could potentially happen. Nick Nurse is a defensive minded guy. I think he would love a guy like Drew Holiday on his team.
I
And
think
I
that
don't think he
actually is
wants
really
to put up
solid.
with the whole James Harden drama. I think it's a win win for everybody.
Yeah, I would say get James out of Philly. He's just not even showing up to media day. Drew Holiday would fit right in with
And
Nick
he
Nurse's
played in
system,
Philly
like you said.
before, too. They
That's
loved him.
true. That's true. See, I even forgot that because he hasn't
Yeah.
played in Philly for so long, but that's where he started his
Mhm.
career until he got traded to the Pelicans. And
Mhm.
yeah, man, that's crazy. I like that idea. I would say, I think that also look for a team like the Knicks to possibly go after
Absolutely.
Drew
Mhm.
Holiday because you want
Mhm.
a pairing mate in the backcourt with Jalen Brunson, another guy that can play good defense. He can
Yeah.
be your primary defender against the best
Mhm.
scorer on the other team, and then you don't have to worry about Jalen Brunson being there. You can have RJ Barrett still in the starting lineup, but you can basically play Drew off the ball if you want as a two guard
Mhm.
because that's what they were
Yeah.
doing in New Orleans when they had Rondo. Drew was playing the
Mhm.
two, and then Rondo was playing the one. So
Yeah.
Drew was playing against he was guarding the best player, which is that Portland
Mhm.
series that we saw where Drew was locking up Dame. So that's gonna be
I
interesting.
think that's exactly why he's going to end up in the Eastern Conference because everyone remembered what happened to Dame when
Oh
Drew
yeah.
Holiday was guarding him in that Pelicans Portland series when New Orleans
Hmm.
swept them and pulled the upset as a 6 seed.
Hmm.
But yeah, the Knicks would be very interesting because that team would be very, very good defensively if they could pull this one off. Tom Thibodeau obviously is a very defensive minded guy. He would love a guy like Drew Holiday. Him
Hmm.
and Jalen Brunson in the backcourt together would be nasty. RJ Barrett's improving every year. Obviously, Julius Randle. I'm not the biggest fan of Julius Randle's game when it comes to the postseason, but in the regular season, dude's a monster. And
Yeah. He's.
obviously, Mitchell Robinson is a great rim protector. He's a great energy guy.
Hmm.
I think they'd be very, very good. They'd be very good defensively, and they got a lot of
100%.
depth on this team too. And
100%.
hopefully, those young guys like Emmanuel quickly, Quinn Grimes, those guys can improve as well. And it'd be very interesting because Portland Express they want at least 2 first round picks. The Knicks have 8, so maybe it's just like, hey, we'll give you 2 first, just give us Drew. They might not even need to give up any of their assets. It's just
Yeah.
depending on what Portland wants. And obviously, we expressed on this podcast multiple times that Portland's front office, when it comes to trades, I don't know what they're thinking. Just like even Jimmy Butler now is like, okay, you have to talk to Milwaukee about tampering because that's all they gave up to get Damian Lillard.
Yeah, I felt like that was
Really?
insane to see how much they gave up. And I feel like Joe Cronin literally has made like very poor choices on who he trades with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at like what they basically gotten back for CJ, Norm, Covington, Lillard.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm forgetting anybody else that they've traded away in the last
Josh Hart.
2 years, Josh Hart. I mean, like, let's be honest, these are not great moves. I feel like with Portland, it's like you really fumbled the bag. You had talent there, and you basically got the bare minimum. And I don't understand it. Dame Lillard, when healthy, is arguably a top 10 player. He's definitely top 15, but you could argue he's a top 10 player. And
Mm-hmm.
you're only getting Drew Holiday. You got also obviously DeAndre Ayton. You got 1 first round pick. They were saying in the offseason, 3 first round picks minimum. 1 first round pick, 1 pick swap. That's all they got. And then they also got I am blanking on the guy's name that Phoenix drafted late round first
Yes.
round pick.
Mm-hmm. And then some pick swaps as well.
I mean,
Um,
like I don't understand it. How did the other two teams benefit more from this than you did? There was a third team that got involved and they benefited more. They got more depth in shooting. I don't get it.
Kind of reminds me of that trade that just happened. Like Kristaps Porzingis ended up in Boston.
Oh yeah. Ooh, you know what? You know what I just thought of, Nick? Drew Holiday going to Boston. They need a point guard, and that
They
would
do.
be that would be dangerous if they got Drew Holiday. Then I would
Yeah.
say that puts them.
Yeah.
I feel like that puts them over
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukee because
Yeah.
of just having Drew.
Yeah, I think they would have to give up a lot though.
Oh yeah,
But obviously, if you could keep, obviously, you'll be able to keep Tatum, Brown, and Kristaps Porzingis. You're going to have to trade like a Derek White. I don't know what the draft capital is, but they could pull that off with those 4. Oh
yeah.
man.
I'd give probably
Oof.
something like because I know Brogdon's not happy. I'd give something like Malcolm Brogdon, Robert Williams, maybe like a couple draft picks if they have some draft
Hmm.
capital, and another filler player to get
Yeah.
Drew Holiday, and
Hmm.
you're golden because I would say like you still have enough depth to win.
Yeah.
If you can keep Derek White as well, that would be really helpful for them. Uh,
Yeah.
and I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they could rob them too of Drew Holiday because Joe Cronin has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah. I think the team that I would love to see Drew Holiday go to, I think the Knicks pairing would be nice.
Oh
I
yeah,
think, well, obviously, if Boston was able to get their hands on him, obviously, I think on paper they're the team to beat. Not only in the
yeah.
East, I think they'd be the team to beat this year overall.
Oh, 100%. They
Um,
got everything they needed.
but I just think you will see Drew's full volume as a player that
Hmm.
keeps growing every year offensively if he was in New York. And people forget
Yeah,
too, Drew Holiday was fifth in the NBA this year on catch and shoot threes. And the Knicks struggle shooting the 3-point ball. They have some guys like they have like we talked about this like in the past with the Knicks. They have guys that are capable of knocking down threes. Jalen
yeah.
Brunson, Julius Randle could get out there, hit some threes.
RJ
They got
Barrett.
Quinn Grimes, yeah, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel quickly, but
Hmm. They're
they,
not
they need
consistent.
they they need a consistent guy that could hit threes, that could create. And Drew Holiday would be the perfect guy in New York.
Oh yeah, no, hands down, he would definitely help the struggles of their 3-point
Yeah.
shooting. And I just
Mm-hmm.
think that because Tom Thibodeau, who's a defensive-minded coach, Drew Holiday fits in his system well, just like Nick Nurse. It's
Absolutely.
another guy that you can put in there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but man, I honestly, Nick, like I know that the last couple of episodes we've been really trying to find stuff to talk about. I just think that
Yeah.
this is insane. I really did not think Dame was going to get traded. I thought it was going to be like a KD, Kyrie situation, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if you saw, but Dame was gonna pull back his request. He wanted to. He was gonna actually play. He was done. He was done with
Mm-hmm.
the trade request. Joe Cronin was the one that said nah, and he decided to deal him still. So I think it's like props to Dame for his loyalty. I think that
Mm-hmm.
loyalty is hard to find in the NBA at this point.
Absolutely.
And Dame might be the only reason that Giannis stays a majority of his career in Milwaukee because I think Giannis would have left. I really do think that he made it very clear I will leave if you don't do anything about this because we're not good
Yes.
enough right now. So
Mm-hmm.
crazy, crazy man. I'm so hyped. I'm so hyped for this season, dude. Uh, we got to go to a Bucks game.
I was gonna say we might just have to drive up there. I mean, I
We
think
got
both
to.
Bucks tickets will go through the roof in Milwaukee, obviously now. But
Oh yeah.
if I could just go see that pairing live in action, I don't care who the Bucks play, dude. I'd be
Oh
down.
my God. I haven't seen Dame live. I need to see him live. That
Yeah,
dude is box office.
I've seen it. I've
Oh,
seen him live once, and when at the Oracle, I went to a game at the
ooh,
Oracle the last year.
ooh,
It was dope. With KD was still in the Warriors, Klay
yeah.
Thompson, Steph wasn't playing, but it was still pretty cool. But even I don't know if you saw Tyler Hero's
Oh
what he posted on
yeah, yeah,
X.
yeah,
He
yeah.
goes, "I'm a Milwaukee
You
kid.
figured
I'm
I'm
definitely
getting
snagging a day
Dame
Milwaukee jersey,
jersey.
bro."
Oh no, I
Yeah,
have to now, man. I had a Drew Holiday jersey, and obviously I can't wear that one now, so I'm gonna
yeah,
have to. But no, man, we'll have to do that, for sure. And
yeah,
honestly, man, like I'm hyped. We're gonna keep talking about this. This is definitely gonna change some of our early
absolutely.
predictions too. I think this definitely moves the needle. We'll see where Drew goes. I think he'll probably get moved in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
I
I
could
think
see
that's
that.
the kicker.
Yeah,
Where does Drew end up going?
I think if
That's gonna be
it's
the
yeah,
kicker.
yeah. Oh, 100%, 100%. We'll see, man. It could be like the most random team. I know Golden State also has had like conversations about like going after Drew. So could Golden State go after him?
How smart can they get?
I know, but they want a guy that can play defense because I'm gonna say this right
Yeah.
now. They lack defense. That is one
Oh,
thing they are gonna
absolutely.
lack. But
Hmm.
Nick, it was great talking to you, man. I know this is an abrupt
Absolutely, man.
episode. Um,
Yeah.
guys, please listen to this episode, subscribe, and follow us on X. Um, and please check out our last episode with DT talking about FIBA. It was a great episode, great time. Nick, you got anything else to tell the fans before we head off today? Do you got any bold predictions so we can definitely clock those again on Twitter?
Bold predictions. I'll
Yeah,
say this
yes,
right
sir.
now. I think Drew Holiday is going to end up as a New York Knick. I said Damian
Okay.
Lillard was going to end up with Milwaukee.
Okay.
I think now the fans are going to pressure the Knicks. Dude, you got 8 first-round picks. You got to do something with them. You can't
Okay.
just sit around and keep picking young players, young players, young players every year. Especially now the Knicks have been really good the last few years. So now it's like their draft picks, they're not in the lottery really anymore. So it's like go use those picks on something. I think Drew
100%.
Holiday in New York would be perfect. I'm telling you, Drew Holiday is going to end up with the Knicks.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
I respect that. I respect that. I think Drew, I think the three choices I would say it would be the Knicks, Miami, and if Chicago's smart, then Chicago. Those
Oh,
three,
if it's
I'm gonna give
Chicago,
that.
you know, I go crazy, man.
Oh yeah,
I would even
100%.
I would even have an issue. They gave up Zach LaVine straight up for Drew.
I
I'd
mean,
be thrilled.
it's not, it'd be crazy. I'd be curious to see what they'd have to give up, but we'll see, man. But all right, Nick, have a good rest of your day. And for the guys that are watching at home, thank you for listening again. Please subscribe, follow, and for me and Nick, this is all ball, no foul. Have a good rest of your evening.